a really horrible rule that came out from the International Olympic Committee. They've announced a new policy that they're calling, I can't even believe they're calling it this, because it has nothing to do with protecting women. I feel like two people who played at the very highest level for every competition that you possibly could don't agree with this and never felt like this was an issue at all. The protection of the female bracketed women's category.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So Megan Rapinoe is getting dragged all over the internet for saying that protecting the women's category at the Olympics is hateful. Yes, that's right. She objects to the IOC's new decision to reintroduce sex testing to protect the integrity of the female category. Remember, women have lost out on at least 900 medals over the years due to male athletes infiltrating the women's category. In 2016, we had an all-male podium where women were knocked off their own podium, were pushed out of their own sports, competing against 3 male athletes in one race. And then just in 2024, we saw male boxers win gold medals, punching female athletes in the face, and the IOC calling it sports. Thankfully, with this new female president, the female category is once again being brought back, because if men are allowed to compete in the female category, there is no female category. And now, thankfully, the female category that was introduced in 1900 is once again being protected. But Megan Rapinoe is not happy with that. Here's what she had to say.
Transgender Day of Visibility. So we just want to wish our trans family the happiest of days. We love you. We see you. We know how trying these times are for you right now, and just wanted to take a moment to say that. And unfortunately, we have to say that all in the same breath as a really horrible rule that came out from the International Olympic Committee. They've announced a new policy that they're calling, I can't even believe they're calling it this, because it has nothing to do with protecting women. I feel like two people who played at the very highest level for every competition that you possibly could don't agree with this and never felt like this was an issue at all. The protection of the female bracketed women's category. They're limiting people eligible to compete in the women's category to those who qualify as what they're calling, quote unquote, biological females.
So this is somebody who has played at the highest level, has won multiple World Cups, but yet doesn't believe female athletes deserve their own category. Doesn't believe that the female category should be protected. And is even going so far as to deny the very existence of real women. Because that's what this comes down to. That we're acknowledging women to be that is female, biologically speaking. That is an acknowledgement of the existence of women. Not your mythical interpretation of what it is to be a woman. Not purporting that men can be women if they identify as a woman. Or saying that male athletes with differences of sex development are women. Because in 2016, we saw an all-male podium. So if you have a problem with the IOC limiting the women's category to women, you have a problem with women having their own category, with female athletes having their own category. So Megan Rapinoe cannot purport to be an advocate for women. Clearly, she is all for men infiltrating the women's category. She is all for women losing out on 900 medals to male athletes. She's all for female athletes getting punched in the face by male athletes and calling it sport. A woman who has won multiple World Cups, playing for the women's national soccer team, lost to teenage boys. Also saw her team lose 12-0 to male soccer players. Yet she is still pretending not to get it. And she is criticizing the IOC for protecting the women's category, for even calling it the protecting of the women's category.
This will require a once in a lifetime screening of all women's athletes for the SRY gene. And if an athlete tests positive for this gene, they will have to compete in the male category. We already know that biology, as much as we want it to be just nice and clean and tight and perfectly in one category or another, it's not. We know that. So now what we're doing is subjecting everybody, all women and all people who are identifying as women, to this really invasive testing.
So many false claims there. Nothing is more clear cut than whether one is male or female. Nobody is born both sexes, which is why I believe the term intersex is very misleading. Nobody is born both sexes. That's not how human beings work. I don't know what you were taught in school, Megan, but when it comes to humans, we are either male or female. Even those born with abnormalities, with disorders of sex development, they are still either male or female. If the Y chromosome is present, yeah, that's right. You cannot compete in the women's category. You have no right to compete in the women's category and use your male body to steal medals from female athletes. The IOC is finally putting a stop to it after decades of allowing it because they decided to get rid of a simple cheek swab for whatever reason. Maybe they bought into the lie that it's invasive, that it's apparently a violation of human rights, a simple cheek swab with everything that athletes have to do when it comes to doing drug tests, physicals, all of which are much more invasive than a cheek swab. Yet she's lying and claiming that this is an invasive test, subjecting all women when the only people objecting to a simple cheek swab are men. Men with the intention of cheating, reaching a level that they were unable to reach while competing in the correct category. Men who wouldn't even get to the Olympics if they had to compete against other men. And Megan Rapinoe is all for it as well. She's happy to sit back and watch female athletes lose out on medals, lose out on opportunities, lose out on money. Obviously, a gold medalist at the Olympics is going to receive much more sponsorship, much more publicity, many more opportunities.
It's easy to say, that I would have had a medal in Rio if the gold, silver and bronze hadn't been allowed to compete. I ran a Scottish record and that still stands as my personal best in that final in Rio. Sometimes I look back and think, I could have had an Olympic medal, but I gave it my all that day.
3 women knocked off the podium by men claiming to be women with high testosterone. Megan Rapinoe has shown where her allegiance lies. She is a traitor to female athletes, a traitor to women.
That only to me just says so we're just trying to whittle it down to a certain type of woman. Is that what we're doing? That's really the whole game here. There's been, they sort of lost the battle on gay marriage and lost the battle on all these things. So it's just we're going to have this whole campaign for all these years to just hate trans people, which is such a small percentage of the population. It's actually on a single hand when we're talking about sports and just thread the absolute tightest needle thread that you possibly could. This committee is framing it as based in science, which it's not. And this will ultimately just prevent people from competing within the women's category that they feel have an unfair advantage. It's just really hateful.
It's hateful to protect the female category. And it's based on feelings, apparently, when she is somebody who will say a man is a woman because he feels like a woman and should be allowed to compete in the women's category and reach levels that he was unable to reach while competing against other males. She's just using the same old talking points that have been debunked, that have been laughed at, that are not based in science, are not based in truth. It's absolute nonsense to claim that human beings cannot be categorized into male and female. It's simple biology. So Megan Rapinoe is getting dragged all over the internet and she absolutely deserves it. She hasn't even wavered on her support of male athletes in women's categories. She hasn't wavered one bit. I can only assume that she is acting at the behest of her woke handlers. Baffling. There can only be two possibilities. One, Rapinoe sincerely believes that males competing against females in sports is safe and fair, revealing a weird denial of her real-life experience as a lifetime player. She was trounced by teenage boys in a scrummage. Or Rapinoe is getting some sort of remuneration to advocate against the interests of women and girls in sports, revealing a depth of depravity so extreme as to pretend a devastating ROI for her benefactors. Either way, her stance is legend defeating. She could have been a hero. What a waste for all concerned. An older woman who is retired from sports is looking back and telling young women that they have to be willing to compete against men to appease the feelings of these men, that it's their job as female athletes to put themselves in harm's way, to accept not having their own category, to do away with fair and safe sports, not to even mention their own spaces, their privacy, their own protection. Female athletes have to say goodbye to all of that so that men don't get their feelings hurt. The greatest obstacle women face are liberal women. Megan Rapinoe says the Olympics requiring women's sports to be played by women is hateful and has no basis in science. Sue Bird agrees. Retired women's athletes supporting their own erasure from sports is wild to see. Trans women are women, but biological women are cis women. We are living in a world where a man is considered to be more of a woman than a woman. Unfortunately, some women hate other women and want them to suffer. Megan Rapinoe hates straight women. She's got hers. Who cares about all the girls coming after her? Rapinoe wins the Pulling Up the Ladder Behind You award. I would love to know who pays her for these views, because no self-respecting female athlete would truly believe this. And I find it very hard to believe that she believes what she is saying.
And herein rides what I do think, Riley, is a true believer. Like the wokest of the woke, the wrongest of the wrong, the absurdist of the absurd, Megan Rapinoe. With her podcast with her partner, Sue Bird, man, she went on and on that it's anti-science, it's anti-trans, it's no such thing as a, quote, woman. I think she's kind of a true believer, Riley.
There's just no way. There's just no way. Obviously, being an elite athlete, she knows the differences between men and women. She does, both her and her wife, Sue Bird. The sport of men's basketball and women's basketball is essentially entirely a different sport. And that's the case across many sports, right? Gymnastics, men have different events, women have different events. Volleyball, the men's net is 7.5 inches higher than the women's net. Basketball, same thing with the three-point line. All of these things, they're essentially different sports entirely. So I cannot, in good conscience, unless Megan Rapinoe is, I mean, even still, even if you're the stupidest person on earth, you still understand the innate differences between men and women. I just think she doesn't care.
She's just repeating what she has been told to repeat, in my opinion. Because again, she lost to high school boys. It wasn't even close. Her team lost 12-0 to male athletes, including retired male soccer players. So I don't know why she's pretending not to get it. Still insisting on pushing an ideology that isn't rooted in reality and certainly isn't rooted in science. Yet she's claiming it's the IOC that is acting on feelings, that isn't acting on science. Continuing to project. She's an embarrassment, she's a disgrace.
Earliest exit ever. Megan Rapinoe missed the penalty kick, missed the penalty kick in extra time, and was laughing about that haircut, smiling on the pitch after she missed the penalty kick.
And I'm glad that nobody is buying her nonsense. Then let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video. And a huge thank you to all of those who have hyped my videos. It is much appreciated.